Tomorrow marks 3 weeks since the Supreme Court handed down the decision in that case that overturned Roe v. Wade. On that evening, on June 24th, a federal judge ruled that Ohio's 6-week abortion ban, which had been enjoined for 3 years, could go into effect now that Roe was overturned. And with the stroke of a pen, abortion effectively became illegal in the state of Ohio. If you are over 6 weeks pregnant, tough luck. You can't get an abortion in Ohio. Just 3 days after that ban went into effect, a child abuse doctor had a 10-year-old rape victim in her office. Just 10 years old. The child was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. She was just 3 days too late to get an abortion. In Ohio, there is no exception for rape. So if that 10-year-old got an abortion in Ohio, she would be breaking the law. That doctor took action. She called a colleague in Indiana seeking help for her patient, and that doctor said she could help. So the young girl traveled to neighboring Indiana that currently has a 22-week abortion ban and received the health care she needed. The 10-year-old's story made national headlines when the doctor in Indiana who performed the abortion came forward to tell the 10-year-old's story. She went on the record to share what happens when abortion is outlawed, to tell her patient's story, to show what Republicans in Ohio and on the Supreme Court had just done. The gut-wrenching story even caught the attention of President Biden, and he highlighted the case when signing an executive order aimed at protecting reproductive rights. And like clockwork, Republicans and conservatives threw their arms in the air and declared, "It's not true." The Wall Street Journal's editorial board published an op-ed titled, quote, "An abortion story too good to confirm." Here's the New York Post, quote, "The 10-year-old rape victim's abortion leaves a number of glaring questions." Republican Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio tweeted, "Another lie. Anyone surprised?" Republican South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem said it was, quote, "literal fake news from the liberal media." Republicans ran with the story. They were obsessed with it as they declared this is just some made-up liberal talking point. But to Republicans' great surprise, the terrible story turns out to be true. A 27-year-old man confessed to raping the child on at least 2 occasions, and he was arrested on Tuesday and charged with rape. But let's take a step back here for a second. Even if the story was not true, something just like it is still what Republicans are okay with. Some would argue Republicans want. This is what it looks like when you overturn Roe v. Wade. 10-year-old rape victims will be forced to carry babies to term when abortion is illegal, no matter what. Republicans know that to be true. They know it. And Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell drove that point home in a House Judiciary Committee hearing on abortion today, questioning the Republicans' anti-abortion witness.
Ms. Foster, you think a 10-year-old would choose to carry?
In the 10-year-old case, first of all, the Ohio...
No, my question is, would a 10-year-old choose to carry a baby?
In the Ohio case, the Ohio Attorney General said that abortion would have been justified.
Focus on the question, please. Would a 10-year-old choose to carry a baby?
I cannot...
Do you think a 10-year-old should choose to carry a baby?
I believe it would probably impact her life, and so therefore it would fall under any exception and would not be an abortion.
Wait. It would not be an abortion if a 10-year-old with her parents made the decision not to have a baby that was a result of a rape?
If a 10-year-old became pregnant as a result of rape and it was threatening her life, then that's not an abortion. So it would not fall under any abortion restriction in our nation.
Ms. Warbelow, are you familiar with disinformation?
Yes, I am.
Did you just hear some disinformation?
Yes, I heard some very significant disinformation.
Why don't you tell me about that?
Yes, an abortion is a procedure. It's a medical procedure that individuals undergo for a wide range of circumstances, including because they have been sexually assaulted, raped in the case of the 10-year-old. It doesn't matter whether or not there is a statutory exemption. It is still a medical procedure that is understood to be an abortion. Beyond that, I think it's also important to note that there is no exception for the life or the health of the mother in the Ohio law. That's why that 10-year-old had to cross state lines in order to receive an abortion.
They may be trying to deny that a 10-year-old child being denied health care after being raped is not an abortion, but we know that is not true because, in essence, this is the GOP position now. We are okay forcing a 10-year-old child to give birth after being raped. The Attorney General of Indiana said he is now looking into potentially prosecuting the doctor who provided the abortion and, quote, gathering evidence. Joining us now is Dr. Jennifer Conti, an adjunct clinical assistant professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the Stanford University School of Medicine. Dr. Conti, thank you for being here tonight. We have been hearing some odd arguments from some anti-abortion advocates that the medical procedure of an abortion somehow does not count as an abortion in certain circumstances. We heard that exchange between Congressman Swalwell and an anti-abortion activist in which the activist tried to claim that in the case of a 10-year-old pregnant rape victim, the pregnancy would, quote, probably impact her life, and so therefore it would fall under any exception and would not be an abortion. What do you make of this decision to redefine abortion in this way?
Well, thank you for having me on. I think that I've watched and rewatched that clip countless times today because the mental gymnastics that these people are doing in their head in order to justify what is and isn't an abortion is just insane. And I can tell you as an abortion provider, as someone who cares for people needing abortion, that story out of Ohio is not one of a kind. Young people, children, need abortions sometimes so that they can keep on being children. And, you know, you may try to deny it, but it happens because of all the different ways that we systemically fail people in this country. I, like many of my colleagues who are trained in complex family planning, have cared for young pregnant girls seeking abortion, and we would absolutely provide the exact same care that Dr. Bernard provided this child in Ohio, because unlike some legislators, we don't cherry pick who we help.
And Dr. Conti, the Ohio abortion ban that reportedly prompted the 10-year-old girl from Ohio to travel for an abortion to Indiana makes exceptions for the life of the mother in very narrow cases like preeclampsia, diabetes, and inevitable miscarriage, and other comparable medical dangers. The law does not make exceptions for incest or rape, including the rape of a child. It also does not say a woman's mental health qualifies for an exception. Given the narrow exceptions under that law, how can anyone argue that the law does not outlaw abortions for 10-year-old rape victims?
Again, I think the nuances that people think are protective in these laws are absurd. This is why abortion restrictions are harmful, and this is why exceptions, quote unquote, to abortion bans are meaningless. Because let's take this example. If you are the parent of a 10-year-old who has just been raped and impregnated, and you've just heard that your state doesn't allow abortions after 6 weeks, you don't have time to dig through the weeds of fine print exceptions. Your energy and your focus is on finding the person who did this to your child and on getting her the fastest help possible. Exceptions are meaningless because of these nuances.
One last question. The Indiana Attorney General told Fox yesterday that he is going to investigate the doctor who provided the 10-year-old rape victim from Ohio with an abortion. He suggested that doctor did not properly report the terminated pregnancy of a minor. We now know she did report it to the Indiana Departments of Health and Child Services. But what is your broader reaction to that kind of intimidation as an OBGYN? What kind of chilling effect do threats like that from people in power have for doctors who now provide the procedure still?
I think if you are in this line of work, you sort of take on that there are inherent risks, whether real or imagined. But this exact example is nothing but a sleight of hand. Like, these people realize that they're focusing on the wrong thing here. They're focusing on the fact that rape is happening to children in their state and that they aren't supporting people who are pregnant and don't want to be, and instead are using that doctor, Dr. Bernard, who's a colleague, or as a scapegoat. And they're not fooling anyone.
Dr. Jennifer Conti, we will have to leave it there. Adjunct clinical assistant professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the Stanford University School of Medicine. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.